LEGO games have been around for over 17 years, with the first TT games released in 2005 with LEGO Star Wars the video game, all the way to LEGO Star Wars the Skywalker saga. Each LEGO game has been innovative in all types and forms, but there's one main issue: ranking and reviewing them. It's so hard because they're all great in their own respective ways. So, bias and rose-tinted glasses aside, I'm here to rank and review every LEGO game in 2022 standards. Starting with the first game, LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga. And yes, I'm skipping the first two LEGO Star Wars games because, well, we have the Complete Saga. So technically there's 28 TT game LEGO games, but in my way of ranking and reviewing, there are 26. So let's begin with LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga. And also, one thing before we get reviewing, this is all my opinion, and I have some unpopular opinions, starting with The Complete Saga. Now, this game is a mixed bag in all sorts of ways, like puzzles for example. The prequel puzzles feel very boring, not by level design. In all 6 episodes, the level design is superb. The main problem is just the game feels boring at the puzzle sections. I may be the first to say it, but when you get to the original trilogy, it still feels kind of boring, but it's more colorful and it doesn't feel as hollow. But overall, the puzzles aren't good or bad, it's just in the middle. The combat in this game is okay. It's very slow, but the other mechanics like dodging and the force are great mechanics that help make the game more enjoyable. The vehicle missions are terrible. The movement is way too fast, and without a drift button, you can't really control the vehicle. The boss fights in this game is either really good or really bad. For example, Darth Maul is one of the best bosses in any LEGO game because of the action sequences, the puzzles, the level design, and many more. And bosses like Grievous aren't bad, but definitely aren't good, really because of the level design, which is surprising because LEGO Star Wars games have really good level design. But the replayability is really good because after you finish all 6 main films, you can go back in those missions and collect mini kits, gold bricks, red bricks, or get things you missed out on, like True Jedi. The character roster is good. You have all the characters you love, like Luke, Leia, Vader, Solo, and many more. And they all have unique abilities, like Boba Fett's jetpack, Jedi and Sith lightsabers, and many more. The graphics. The graphics. My favorite part about this video. Well, the graphics are super outdated. The textures, the design, the visuals themselves are outdated, especially for 2022. But for the time, it was decent. The multiplayer in this game is fun and hilarious, especially during the prequels where there's more variety. It's really fun to just do whatever. The hub worlds are fun for a few minutes and then gets boring, but the canteen is really how it is in the movies. And starting bar fights and dance songs are really cool. And lastly, the jokes in this game are decent. It doesn't rely on slapstick as recent LEGO games, but still does use slapstick in general. In general, I say this game is a 7.5 out of 10. And releasing 1 year later, we have LEGO Indiana Jones 1, which is one of the lowest rated LEGO games for good reasons. Not because they straight up suck, but more solely on the gameplay, because the gameplay dives a bit here. The vehicle missions are barely better than the Complete Saga, and I say it barely because Star Wars is based mostly on space and sci-fi. You have to use spacecrafts and stuff, but Indiana Jones is based on the real world, so you have to use real vehicles. But the combat is still great here. The puzzles here are probably the best thing about this game because Indiana Jones is based mostly on puzzles, and they have lots of variety in them, especially as you progress through the 3 movies. For example, the minecart sequence in the Temple of Doom is very unique and different, and the invisible bridge sequence is great. But the main problem I have with this game is the character roster. Since it's Indiana Jones, it's not really based on anything that's really cool or anything, so the characters aren't really cool. So Indiana Jones gets a score of a lucky number 7. Coming on next is LEGO Batman 1, which was released the same year as Indy 1, and I have to say, LEGO Batman 1 has aged good. The character roster is really good here, ranging from Batman, Robin, and Alfred to Joker, Penguin, and Two-Face. Though LEGO Batman's character roster is mostly filled with henchmen, and it is the smallest character roster in any TT LEGO game. The puzzles are good, not as good as Indy 1, but it is still great, and the credit mostly goes to the batsuits that add a unique variety of gameplay, and the combat here is decent again. But like I said before, the batsuits make the combat even better, and they do add a lot of variety to them. Like the demolition suit, for example, is very fun to place bombs. The hub road, the Bat Cave in this game is solid. It has a lot of stuff to look at, and it does take a lot of inspiration from the Tim Burton Batman movies. And I think that really does make the Bat Cave more immersive and better. But the Bat Cave again gets boring after a short while, which you see me talking about early on with the early LEGO games. So, all this said, I think LEGO Batman 1 gets a solid 7.8 out of 10. And now we're going back to the Indiana Jones franchise with LEGO Indiana Jones 2, The Adventure Continues, which this game isn't all that great. For example, the bosses are all giant bosses that are all pretty bad. The hub worlds are all split into different movies, but the main hub worlds are only for the Crystal Skull. But the biggest issue with Indy 2 is how the first 3 films are rushed, and especially for Raiders of the Lost Ark. But the best thing about LEGO Indiana Jones 2 is the multiplayer. The multiplayer is way ahead of its time. With you being able to play online with one of your friends, it's pretty fun, and the visual and graphics improve here, mostly because of the lighting. So LEGO Indy 2 gets a score of a 4.5 out of 10. Next we have LEGO Harry Potter Years 1 to 4, which is really good. The hub worlds in Years 1 to 4 are really good. Hogwarts is really fun to explore and it's very immersive, and it is the best we've gotten yet. The combat and spells are pretty cool, and Diagon Alley is really great to traverse through, and it's where you buy characters, and the character customizer is really solid for its time, and so are the bosses, though I do have to say, plenty of them are really easy, and I know it's a LEGO game, but I do like some challenge in a boss. So LEGO Harry Potter Years 1 to 4 gets a score of an 8 out of 10. The next game here is LEGO Star Wars 3 The Clone Wars, which needs no explanation, because this game is great. The level design is amazing, with this game being more expansive with level design and hub worlds, being the Venator and Separatist ships, and the combat is amazing. The characters move more faster than previous LEGO games, and lightsaber combat is great again with it being faster, and the Force is back, and using it again is amazing. Clone Wars focuses on the first 2 seasons of the show and the movie, and it is a good retelling of them, especially without dialogue. The multiplayer is again fun, and they introduce split-screen scenarios, and the grand battles in this game is basically perfection. The character roster is great as well, with it having tons of characters, though I will admit it is mostly clones, and the vehicle missions are still terrible, but not as terrible. In fact, I like a few of them. So with that being said, LEGO Star Wars 3 The Clone Wars gets a score of a 9 out of 10. And man, 2011 was a good year for LEGO games, because the next game is LEGO Pirates of the Caribbean, and the combat here is great, the best yet, and I know I keep saying that, but LEGO games just improve a lot. The ship battles are amazing, the exploration is pretty good, alongside the hub world, which is okay. It's very miniature, but the swimming mechanism in the water in this game is a neat idea, which makes the hub world good, and the level design is again amazing. The multiplayer is fun again, and the bosses here are amazing and are different. Like compare Davy Jones and the first boss against Captain Jack Sparrow. They're completely different, and the character roster is good again. Mainly like the complete saga because most of the characters are unique, and LEGO Pirates of the Caribbean takes place during the first 4 movies. And even though I personally don't like the 4th movie, here it's honestly decent. And the first 3 movies are pretty good. I guess TT Games was just throwing great games every 4 months, cause yes, TT Games made 3 games in 2011. And they're all separated by just a few months. With that being said, LEGO Pirates of the Caribbean gets a score of a 9 out of 10. And the next game is LEGO Harry Potter Years 5 to 7. This game isn't as good as Years 1 to 4, but I do like parts of this game, like the hub worlds that add new hub worlds like places from Deathly Hallows and London. The character roster is good, but many characters have many different variations. But the main problem is the Augmenti spell, which you have to use so often, it really does get annoying. And the Half-Blood Prince section feels really tedious, so LEGO Harry Potter Years 5 to 7 gets a score of a 7.2. The next game we have LEGO Batman 2 DC Superheroes, which is very good. The gameplay is great, and the suits here again are fantastic, and it does have some new suits. The main 2 new things LEGO Batman 2 adds are very big changes, and those are an open world and voice acting, which most of the LEGO community likes open worlds in my opinion, while talking is mixed in my honest opinion. I prefer talking, it's just easier to understand than just grunts, and most of the time the voice acting is good. The only problem is when they pull them out of the movies. It can feel off, but LEGO Batman 2 has its own original story and voice line, so it is pretty good. but the character roster doesn't have as much characters as the games I mentioned before in this game. But these characters are unique, and with the new open world, flying around as Superman or Wonder Woman can be very fun. And this time, the open world doesn't get boring fast because of the character roster and you being able to traverse in many ways. Like I said, with flight, you can use vehicles, the Flash, or go in the ocean and do some puzzles. And the levels in this game, oh, they are amazing. Like for example, the Lex Luthor vehicle mission, that actually is amazing. And Lego Batman 2 actually has good vehicle missions alongside the mission I just talked about. The mission where you have to chase Joker and Lex Luthor is pretty good. And really the only bad mission in this game is Ace Chemical, which is super boring and dry. And it goes on for like 4 hours. But apart from that, every mission is good. And the bosses are great. Like the final Joker boss. Lego Batman 2 deserves a final score of a perfect 10 out of 10. Man, I love this game. But next, we probably have the biggest hot take on this list, and that is Lego Lord of the Rings. In my opinion, Lego Lord of the Rings is a bit of an overrated game. And hear me out, this game isn't bad. I mainly say this because people say it's like the best Lego game ever. I disagree strongly. So why do I say this? Well, the character roster has some potential because Lord of the Rings has some characters like Sauron who are very unique characters but end up being very disappointing, and every character is basically the same because of the mithril weapons, so every character can use the same weapons, which is cool. For example, if you're trying to use a character but want to use a sword, you can do that. That is pretty cool, but it adds no variety to the characters, and the ground battles are good as well. And the open world is also good. But again, it is overrated and some levels are really long, like Ace Chemical type long, and the bosses are very inconsistent. So I do have to say that Lord of the Rings is overrated. And I know I said that like 10 times, but hear me out when I say this. Lego Lord of the Rings gets a score of a 6 out of 10. And now we're going to one of the most unique Lego games, if not the most unique Lego game, which is Lego City Undercover. And I really like this game because it feels like a combination of Lego and GTA. Basically, it is Lego GTA, or at least the closest we got it as of 2022. But the best part about this game is easily the open road. The open road is like a combination of Miami and New York and San Francisco. And many places, it's very colorful, vibrant, and flashy, and there's many places and islands to explore. And honestly, it is basically Lego GTA. The main story here, which is an original story, is well, good for Lego standards, but for an actual story, it's kinda meh. The combat is nice here as well, and the level design here is very nice as well. So let's get on to the score, which Lego City Undercover gets an 8.5 out of 10. I would recommend this game a lot. Lego Marvel Superheroes 1, and this game is phenomenal. The story that is original is good for Lego standards. Again, it's meant actual storytelling, but it's Lego. The gameplay is amazing with characters being able to do many attacks and abilities. Like Iron Man, for example, can use arc reactor beam, his missiles, and repulsors. And Iron Man isn't the only character because many other characters have special abilities and attacks, as well like Spider-Man, who can use his webs to do many stuff. But he can also do this move where the screen goes to blue and red and track something. Captain America can also use his shield to throw into shield hooks, which is absolutely amazing. For puzzles, Hulk and other big figs can break strong areas. Wolverine is literally immortal unless you jump off the map. Thor can use his thunder to charge up these thunder things, and the list goes on and on, but those are mostly the key abilities. But that doesn't mean that all the other characters are bad, because there are many other characters that are amazing. For example, the whole X-Men, Venom, Green Goblin, the Fantastic Four, Daredevil, Red Skull, Super Skrull, and the best two characters in the game, Stanley and Deadpool, who are amazing characters. And they all have unique combo strings, so that is very neat. But the bread and butter to all Lego games are the puzzles. And man, the puzzles are fantastic, pun intended. And that is for many reasons. For example, like I mentioned earlier, the characters like Captain America can use a shield to throw into shield hooks. And that is not the only reason the level design in this game is my favorite in any Lego game of all time. Well, Lego Batman 2 does throw a good competition for number one, But LEGO Marvel 1 has to take it for me, mostly because the level design works amazingly in linear areas and in freer areas, which is rare to see because LEGO games like LEGO Indy 1 and the complete saga work well mostly inside one design of a level, and I think you know what type of levels I'm talking about. But LEGO Marvel 1 works well in both of those two components, which is really why the puzzles and level design are spectacular. But don't forget about the open world, because the open world is phenomenal. It feels very good to explore and traverse through, which characters like Spider-Man and Iron Man make it fun to explore Manhattan, and it has a comic book feel to it. And the city feels lively. There's cars moving on the streets, there's civilians walking through the streets and on the sidewalks, and you can hear civilians' conversation, which I don't want to sound nosy, but they do talk about a lot of interesting stuff, like what they ate for dinner 284 days ago. So that is very neat, and the city has a lot to interact with. And when I was talking about LEGO City Undercover, one of the best things about the open world is that you can interact with many things. So that thing here is nice, and the stuff you can interact with are really cool and nice, like side missions for many different stuff like characters, vehicles, and more. And you can enter some interiors, which again makes the city even better. So that is really good. And the game is based on the comics, not the MCU, which is something that benefited this game, in my opinion. And LEGO Marvel Superheroes 1 has to get a score of a 10 out of 10. The next game is the LEGO Movie video game, which was released inside 2014. And I have to say, this game is sort of a mixed bag, especially in the open world department, where it's small and there's not much to do in there. The character roster is pretty good. There's many characters that are different, and in general, the characters themselves is pretty good. You have DC characters and many more. And the gameplay is decent, and the level design is very intriguing and unique, but the voice lines are ripped out of the movies, and so are the cutscenes, which feels pretty lazy. So the first LEGO Movie video game earned a score of a 6 out of 10. And next is LEGO The Hobbit, which I don't have much to say about this game. My thoughts are similar to the first LEGO Lord of the Rings game, but the characters have variety in them, and some big figs are really good. The open world is good, and that's all my thoughts on this game. So again, this game is also a 6 out of 10. Now the next game we have is LEGO Batman 3 Beyond Gotham. And this game is mixed inside the LEGO community, mostly because it was coming off the greatness of LEGO Batman 2, and I can understand why people don't like this game. But in my opinion, this game is very decent in terms of gameplay. The suits make a return here and are better than ever, because there's now new suits for characters like Joker, Cyborg, and more. And they also added more suits to Batman and Robin. And the combat in this game is good. And the main issue for me with this game is the open worlds, which LEGO Batman 3 has loads of them. From Green Lantern's planet Oa, to the moon, to the watchtower. This game is stacked with open worlds. The problem is that many of them just don't have much to do and just boring and stale to traverse through. Though the level design is again very interesting, as well as the character roster is the biggest yet, ranging from the heroes and villains to characters you probably didn't even know about, like Batcow. And the characters all have interesting gameplay mechanisms. With that said, LEGO Batman 3 earns a score of an 8 out of 10. LEGO Jurassic World is the next game to review, and LEGO Jurassic World is a very interesting game. The level design is very good. As the game progresses, you go through more different levels, like the levels where you have to hide and sneak around places, and the car chase levels are all super solid. One issue I have with the game though is that the voice lines are pulled out of the movies. So when you're playing through the original movies like Jurassic Park and Jurassic Park The Lost Road, which were made in the 90s, more specifically 1993, it can feel a bit off, but it doesn't take you out of the story, which is great. And the graphics in this game are amazing. But easily the best part about this game is the character roster. You can play as dinosaurs, which is pretty cool to do, and you can even customize them. So LEGO Jurassic World gets a score of a 9 out of 10. The next game here is LEGO Dimensions, and LEGO Dimensions, if I'm being honest, is a great game. There's many gameplay features and combat mechanics because there's so much characters, but the issue here is the expenses. Since to get more packs, you have to pay real world money, which like I said before, is a really big issue. But even if you do have the expenses, you can't get the packs anymore since the game got cancelled back in 2017, which was really unfortunate because this game was really good. And the open worlds were all very intriguing to say the least. So LEGO Dimensions gets a score of 8 out of 10. Going back to New York City, we have LEGO Marvel Avengers. And LEGO Marvel Avengers, in my opinion, is insanely underrated, if not the most underrated LEGO game for many reasons. And I mostly say this because this game is mainly split in the LEGO community, like LEGO Indiana Jones 2, and it is one of those games like LEGO Batman 3 where you either love this game or hate it. And this game is mostly hated because they say it's a bad game because it reuses lines from the movies and the open road and many other reasons. And I will say, those aren't big issues because the open road is changed. It is more focused on the MCU, so buildings like the Baxter Building and X-Men Mansion are sadly gone, but there are replacements for them like Avengers Tower. So I have to say, I prefer Manhattan and LEGO Marvel Superheroes 1. I prefer the daylight rather than the sunset, but there are more open roads apart from Manhattan, such as Asgard, Sokovia, Iron Man's Malibu, Washington DC, South Africa, Hawkeye's Farm, and Shield Base, and all these open roads are pretty good. But my favorite definitely has to be Asgard because of the aesthetic of Asgard. It really how it is in the movies, and the side quests here are definitely the best part from Manhattan. And in general, adding all these open roads is definitely something that benefited this game for the better. And the level design here is good. It's definitely more free, and that in my opinion benefits the level design a lot, especially because LEGO level design is often better when linear, but the freer interiors and sections in this game is when I enjoy it more. The one issue I have with it is that it can be inconsistent. What I mean is that a level can be good and then the next level is okay, or if I'm being honest with you, mediocre. But there's very few mediocre levels, maybe just 2 or 3, but apart from that, it's pretty good. And the combat is good here as well, with there being a new mechanic where you can do team up moves. For example, let's say you're Iron Man and the CPU, or if you're playing multiplayer, whoever else is playing as Captain America that they did in the movie. Or if you're Thor and Hulk, you can also do a special move, and you can do it with any character. For example, let's say you're the Collector and Nick Fury, you can also do a special move. And I have to say, this is a really great feature, and the character roster has many characters and they all have unique special moves and combo strings, so the combat is constantly fresh. And speaking about the character roster is also pretty good. That's what you would expect from this game, but it goes much further beyond because it contains characters from the comics still, like A-Bomb, Abomination, Red Hulk, Nova, and definitely the best character in the game, Fing Fang Foom. But wait, I think I'm forgetting a character, and that character is a true best character, not only inside this game, not only inside the LEGO Marvel franchise, but in every single LEGO game, and that is Stan Lee. Stan Lee is basically everything in this game. He can turn into the Hulk, he can use an Iron Man suit, he has super speed, and many more. But that's not all the characters. For example, the characters from the MCU are Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, Hulk, Ultron, Loki, Black Widow, Hawkeye, Nick Fury, and a lot more. But an issue I have with this game is that there's way too many side missions that feel too tedious, but I do really enjoy the side missions in general. So with this said, LEGO Marvel Avengers does earn a score of a 10 out of 10. Now the next game here is LEGO Star Wars The Force Awakens, and LEGO Star Wars The Force Awakens is another mixed game in the LEGO community, and this game I understand a lot more because there's many issues with this game. For example, the open road is very poor for tons of reasons, like the open roads being very boring and stuff, kind of like LEGO Batman 3. But the biggest issue I have is with the story mode, and to many that might sound outlandish, but I say this because instead of the regular format that TT Games does when they make a game based on a movie, they made this game based only on one movie, and no, Return of the Jedi does not count. But back to the story mode, this game feels very rushed, and this game has a lot of levels, so majority of the levels are just really short, so that really takes you out of the experience. But there are some good things in this game. Probably the best thing about this game is a new shooting mechanic that is really good in my opinion. So with this said, LEGO Star Wars The Force Awakens gets a score of a 5.5. LEGO Roads is the next game here, and LEGO Roads is a very different LEGO game, probably the most different game TT Games has made. That is a LEGO game, and LEGO Roads in my opinion is a good game, but it isn't a game I would come back to replay every often. In fact, I bet I haven't played this game in about 2 years, and that's mostly because it could get a bit still pretty fast, but it is really good if you're creative, so I'll give LEGO Roads a 7. You'll definitely like this game if you're a creative person. Ninjago, the movie video game, and isn't that a mouthful to say. But back to the game, Lego Ninjago is a very underrated Lego game, and I see this because this game is very good, and I am a big fan of the series, so this game is definitely a game Ninjago fans should play for many reasons. For example, the open world in this game is really unique because the city is made out of Legos, so that is very intriguing to see. And graphics ever since Lego Star Wars 3 The Clone Wars have gotten better and better and have improved a ton, especially since Lego City. That was where the big jump was. And this game looks stunning. The sky and ocean look amazing in this game, and so is the city. But arguably the best thing in this game has to be the combat. With it being martial arts from the Lego Ninjago TV show, and this is a thing that is very amazing. You can learn techniques from the show and movie, like the art of the floating butterfly, the skyward dragon, and spinjutsu. And there's even a skill tree to level up your moves. The character roster is very nice as well, with the majority of the characters being able to use elements like the ninjas and ghosts. And the level design is very nice. Ninjago the movie video game earns a score of an 8 out of 10. Up on here next is Lego Marvel Superheroes 2. And yet again this game is divided in the community. And I can't see why, because this game is spectacular. Most people say it's bad because they don't like the layout of Chronopolis. But in my opinion, Chronopolis is a great open world. But the main thing Lego Marvel 2 has going for it is the character roster, because the character roster is mind-blowing. There are so many characters that you would think that with so many characters, majority of the characters would be super similar or basically the same. But Lego Marvel 2 is the exact opposite, because every character is different in all types of ways. And there's tons of characters that have interesting character designs, like Spider-Ham and Hitmonkey. And there's tons of characters that I didn't even know existed, like Stingray. But I do have one complaint with the character roster, and that is the icons or character grid. The icons hurt my eyes when they scroll, and in general I miss the old circle icons, but apart from that, the character roster is near perfection. But let's talk about the level design here. And the level design is quite good because the levels are based on Chronopolis, and Chronopolis has tons of different sections in the open worlds, so there's tons of different sceneries and places in the levels, and you can use many characters in the levels, so each level is intriguing and unique. So I have to say, Lego Marvel Superheroes 2 gets a score of a 9 out of 10. This game is super underrated, and also the character customizer is superb, so that's why it lands the score. Nextly, we have Lego The Incredibles, and Lego The Incredibles is a, you guessed it, split game in the Lego community, and I can see why. This game starts off inside The Incredibles 2 instead of The Incredibles 1, but that's not too big of an issue. The big issue is how easy the game is, and yeah, it is a Lego game, but this game feels a bit too easy, and I bet it isn't hard to do a no-death playthrough. But definitely the best thing about this game is the character roster, and that's mostly because of the Pixar characters that I'm sure everyone loves. And the open world level design here is good, so Lego Incredibles gets a score of a 7 out of 10. It is kind of overhated. Now I'm just gonna start off by saying Lego DC Supervillains is amazing. The open world is very expansive, and there's many locations to explore, for example Smallville, Metropolis, Gotham, and more. It really does feel like a remake of Lego Batman 2, and the combat is very decent, and there's tons to do here, especially inside Apocalypse, which is amazing. And the level design here is like usual amazing, and the bosses are spectacular, and so is the character roster and customizer, because Lego Marvel Superheroes 2 had a great character customizer, but this game improves on it even more. So Lego DC Supervillains earns a score of a 9 out of 10. If you haven't played this game, I definitely recommend it. Now the next game is the Lego Movie 2, and this game, well, let me just straight up say it. This game is not good. I would honestly say this game is bad, and that's a score of a -1 out of 10. And the last game on this list is, okay guys, I'm joking. This game isn't a -1 out of 10, but this game is very mediocre. The open world and level design aren't really good, especially for a Lego game, and the character roster is, well, okay. And probably the best thing about this game is that it's so short. It's really only about 3 to 5 hours long, and that's all I can really say about this game. So Lego Movie 2 gets a score of a 4 out of 10. This game was extremely rushed. And the most recent game on this list is Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga, and Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga is pretty good. The open worlds are fantastic, and the character roster is pretty good with 380 characters and 452 characters including the DLC, though many characters are just the same, and that's probably why there's character classes. passes, and the level design is great here, especially in the linear sections. The combat is great, and the bosses are really good as well, especially in Revenge of the Sith. But this game does have some issues. For example, there's no character customization, which is really disappointing and a wasted opportunity. And also, in the open worlds, a lot of them don't have much to do, kind of like The Force Awakens, even though I still do like the open worlds. So this does give LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga a 8.8 out of 10. Now I want to say thank you if you watched this from the beginning to the end, but there's one last thing to do, ranking the games, so here's the list. And with that is every LEGO game ranked and reviewed. So make sure to like and subscribe and share with all your friends. So that's it for today. Peace, y'all.